Welcome to Making Conversations, a podcast from makers Gemma Millen and Robin Galway. Today we are making conversations with Helen Hancock, glass blower based in Limivady, Northern Ireland. We really hope that you enjoyed the previous episode that featured textile artist Mairead McCormack. That was the first episode that launched this series as part of August Craft Month 2019. For this episode, our guest was glass blower Helen Hancock, who speaks so openly about her making journey and shares her beautifully unique processes of making. Helen, who's also a doula and a breastfeeding counsellor, uses her practice to open up the conversation about natural feeding. So let's get this great making conversation started with Helen Hancock. So thank you so much for joining us and having this making conversation. Could you tell us a bit about how you got into glass and the start of your education towards being a glass maker?
Okay, so I suppose I was always creative and artistic, like most of us are whenever we end up doing this. I studied in Limivady. I did my foundation course here in Limivady, where I'm based now, many years ago in 1994, I think. I started here, and then started at NCAD in 95. Studying glass, and finished there in 1998. And I also went to Seattle to work there with some glass artists in 97, in the summer of 97, because I really wanted to write my thesis on Chihuly.
Wow,
and the Venetian glass. So I decided I was too lazy to sit in the library, so I just went straight to the horse's mouth.
Yeah, just right.
So I traveled to Seattle for the first time in 1997 in the summer, which was a great time to be in Seattle, and then came back and finished my final year at NCAD, and then went straight back to Seattle again as soon as I graduated.
Brilliant. And did you go back to Seattle straight into a job and settle back into what you were doing previously, or was it kind of like a full move?
Yeah, I did. I worked with a guy called Bruce Greek, who had previously been one of the Jubilee head gaffers, and we were making lighting pieces for Nordstrom's at the time for their stores.
Wow.
And so they were being sent all over the United States. So I worked with Bruce for quite some time, and there were several of us on the team. We would have worked on Vashon Island and a few other studios. At that stage, in the 90s, late 90s, there was just hot shops everywhere in Seattle. I mean, everyone and their granny could blow glass in Seattle. It was just amazing. So it was a really good time to blow glass and a really great place to be. So I was really lucky. I suppose I was a bit more spontaneous then. So it was brilliant. Yeah, I loved it. It was a great experience. So I traveled back and forth until around, I think 2001, I think was when I finally sort of settled back here.
Yeah. Right.
And I had started looking into getting the studio going here back then. And I was sort of based between Derry, and then I decided to go to Donegal town. The unit was available, funding wasn't, and I kind of got a bit fed up trying then at that stage, and went back to Seattle again.
Yeah.
And then had a gap then for a few years where I came back to Derry then and worked in different jobs for a while to try and work out what I wanted to do. And and then I think it sort of fizzled out. I just didn't make glass for about 15 years.
Wow, okay.
And I went back to it in 2017 was when I first made glass again. After that, a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, why glass in the first place? And you're a glass blower. What made those decisions to choosing glass and going into it? I mean, you said you're very creative as a child, but I mean, not many people really have exposure to glass blowing or even glass at all.
We went on a field trip to Dublin with the college here when we were doing foundation. Actually, I think we went when we were doing A-levels.
Okay.
We were studying A-levels. We did a field trip to Dublin, and we had a tour of NCAD. And I just remember walking into their glass studio at the time and going like, "What is this?" And it was hot, and there was lots of music, and it was noisy and it was vibrant, and I just loved it, and I loved the heat.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is sort of challenging and interesting, and I suppose my influences would have been very much like Art Nouveau and stuff like that, and everything would have been very curvaceous and round and organic sort of things. And I thought, well, this is a really organic thing to use. And I love ceramics as well, and I love the idea of becoming a potter as well. But I just think I think initially I had wanted to do ceramics, and I applied for ceramics then when I went to NCAD initially. And the way they do it is you rotate. You do the 4 modules, so you do your metal work and your ceramics and your glass, and I can't remember what the other one is. And then Chihuly had arrived in Ireland at that time on his way to Venice, and we all ended up working with him in Waterford.
Fantastic.
And that was when I changed my mind. I thought, there's no way I'm going back to doing ceramics. So that was how the glass bug kicked in. And then after that, it was just all about finding the source, who's the core, who's making the most interesting stuff right now, and where are they. And I think I always sort of thought, if you were going to do it and you admired somebody and they were still alive, then you just go to them.
Yeah.
Well, that was always what I thought you did. I just thought, well, if you want to be the best at something, then you go to the person who influences you the most, and if they're around, then why not? And that was kind of how I seen it. And I remember talking to people afterwards and telling them that, and they were going, well, no one does that. It takes years to build up to it. And I was going, no, I just went straight over.
So, very brave attitude.
Great fun.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's fantastic. Actually, I think that's definitely an approach people need to have. Like now, still
more confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same when I talk to people who are still at art college, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing a master's," and I'm saying, "Well, where are you thinking of going?" They're going, "Oh, I'm thinking about going to, I don't know, Cumbria or somewhere like that." And I'm going, "Where would you like to end up?" "Oh, I'd love to end up in New York." And I go, "Well, why don't you just go to New York?" Or just go.
Yeah.
Life's short, just do it anyway. Face the fear and all that.
Brilliant. And how was Seattle an option for you? Like, was there funding for you to go over, or did you have friends or family over in Seattle?
No, not at all. I'd met some of the glass blowers. I'd met them when Chihuly was there years ago in Waterford when I just started NCAD, and then a few of them had come over to work with us in the art college. 3 of them had come over to work with us, and there was quite a lot of people would have come to NCAD back then to do residencies with the departments. So Peter Young and David Reiki and lots of really amazing, high-profile artists that would have been around at the time would have come in to do 2-week workshops with us, and we were really, really lucky. I don't know if they still do that, but that's what they did then. Obviously, they had a lot more money then than they do now.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, and so we all just clicked, and I was one of the ones who was like, right, guys, I'm coming over this summer, and they were like, come on ahead, let's go, come to Pilchuck, and we'll come over and we'll do all these things, and come and hang out in Chihuly's place and meet everybody. And so I met like Lino Tagliapiera, and who's probably recognised as one of the most famous glass blowers in the world even today.
Right.
An Italian master. And so, I got to hang out with him and make dinner, and it was just mind blowing. Looking at it now, I'm still going like that. I did that. I did that when I didn't really realise how important it was.
Yeah.
So it was brilliant. It was really inspiring at the time, and when I came, and that was between my final year, my second and my third year of college, I did that. So when I came back to do my third year, I just thought I was just invincible.
Definitely, you need to have that. I think going towards your final year, I suppose. Anyway, but how did you find the culture to be different in terms of making in Seattle compared to making in Ireland?
Well, I mean, it's vastly different. That they are very much Venetian influenced because of Chihuly's connection with Venice, and so the whole Venetian. My whole thesis was about the Venetian influence on American glass, actually, and how Lino Tagliapiera and other Venetian glass blowers had come to Seattle and shared a lot of the the skills that actually not long before that people would have been beheaded for in Venice, believe it or not.
Wow.
Okay.
For telling those secrets. So although I think back then Lino was actually shunned quite a bit for sharing the secrets of Venetian glass, you know, a lot of people were influenced, like Dulce Huli and Benjamin Moore and Dante Marioni and people like that, who now make glass, like Venetian glass artists. But what they did in the United States was they took those skills and made everything bigger.
Yeah.
You know? So everything's huge there, and it's huge pieces of glass, and it was really intimidating coming from NCAD to go there and see that, because we were using recycled Waterford crystal, which is heavy and you can't use colour with, and it was very difficult. So being there with these guys was really it was a bit overwhelming, and I definitely was pretty intimidated by it all. But at the same time, I was just so in awe of everything I saw, and when I went back the next year to work with Bruce, it was amazing to watch. I mean, when we were working in art college, you don't really work as a team, so you don't have like 4 people running around working with you.
Yeah.
And in Seattle, then when I was there working in a team, I was one of the team members, so I had a role to play every time. And it really teaches you a lot about making glass in that way. And that's how they make glass like that. You know, that's the difference between us here and the skills that we have and the skills that they have now, you know, got there.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I mean, people there who can make the most amazing glass you've ever seen. There's just so many. So the entire market's swamped there.
Yeah.
With all amazing glass blowers, and unless you're absolutely at the top of your game, you get nowhere. I mean, if one of those guys lived here, we'd all be falling around them.
Yeah.
And they would just be average. But so yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What was your graduation piece then, or the body of work you worked on coming back from that experience? Was it significantly different to what you'd kind of been working on previous or before you went over to Seattle?
I don't think so, not really, because with the crystal you were really limited. So crystal can't be blown thin. It has to be kept quite thick.
Okay.
And colour and stuff. So I did these very organic spiral forms and blown elements and sand cast elements and different pieces, and I think they were just very basic forms. And I think for me it was just, I just wanted to get my final year finished then so that I could go again.
Yeah.
So it was just and I brought a lot of tools. I bought a lot of tools in Seattle to bring back then to use at NCAD in my final year as well. So I had all this equipment there. But yeah, I mean, the end of year show just funded me for my flight back. Yeah. So that's what it was great.
Fantastic.
Could you maybe talk a little bit about the process of actually glass blowing? I mean, I'm not familiar with it at all. I know Robin has actually, you've done.
Yeah, I did just a very small weekend course down at Leitrim, and it was incredible because I have always had this fascination with glass as well, just how it kind of works like honey and how it flows, and just it's just such a beautiful and captivating thing to watch. But I'm not in any way a natural at it, as I found out. But yeah, could you tell us a bit more about the processes that you would use? Like you were saying about Waterford crystal, you would recycle that. What was the choice? What are the other options? I know there's like bullseye glass, but is that for smaller lamp work?
Yeah, that would be for more warm glass. I think bullseye is for warm glass. We would use I think the glass that I use at the minute comes from Sweden, and I can't pronounce the name of it. Actually, I can't remember. But I suppose there's all different recipes for it, isn't there? And the one that I think is used in Leitrim now, and the one that I was using here, is a really lovely clean glass as well. And it's about 1150, 1200 degrees it melts at. And obviously we can't touch it, so you're having to use your tools and understanding your tools and how to work it. So it's a lot to do with it's like a rhythm. You have to be patient with it. It's getting used to the heat. That's one big part of it, is working with the heat and understanding how do you approach it. Working with that flow, so getting to know how your glass is flowing. Crystal's a totally different temperature. It works differently, so it's very, very runny, and then it cools down very, very it cools down quite slowly, where the other glass we would use now is hotter and it cools down faster. So it's working out how to reheat it, how long you need to reheat it. There's lots of process, and then that all takes time. And it's something that I suppose that's what you get used to initially when you're first working with the glasses, the timing and the process of that, and then understanding how to work with the tools and color, and I suppose it's a bit like ceramics in a way. It's you're having to keep that turning constantly and keep things centered and all that sort of stuff. So like pottery a bit in a way, only much warmer.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. So you had quite a break then in your making. Could you maybe talk about why you had that break, and then what started your making journey again?
Well, I suppose life. It was just that it was the old biological clock ticking. I think it was a bit of that. I met a guy. Oh God, back in the 2006 we met, and we bought a house in Donegal in 2007. A 400-year-old clachan, actually.
Oh my goodness.
400-year-old batch clachan, with amazing outbuildings, and the plan was to restore the house and turn the sheds it was beautiful stable block, and that was going to be my studio, and we had lots of ideas. So we spent 9 years trying to work on the house, and we had volunteers coming from all over the world. And I suppose just gradually over time, the idea of blow and glass started to waver, and then I had my kids as well, and then I found all the things related to having children very complicated. Like the births were horrendous, feeding my children was really difficult. So all these things that I mean, we basically lived off the land more or less where we were. One time we didn't have electric. We lived off well water. I lived in a touring caravan for 2.5 years with no toilet. So I don't know what I lived like, but not like most people at the time. And we grew all our own vegetables and raised our own animals and stuff. Amazing. So it was a very sort of, I don't know, it was idyllic, but it was not easy. And then having children in the middle of that, and I also I lost a baby at 6 months as well. Oh, goodness, so there was a lot of processing to do for me in terms of coming to terms with the horrendous birth I had, the awful breastfeeding experiences, and also baby loss. And so I decided to train as a Quidgy breastfeeding counsellor then. And so I studied that and trained for over 2 years to do that, and then I became a birth doula as well, because I needed answers. I needed to know that it wasn't my fault that that happened to me and my children, and understand what the process was. And so that kind of became my new force. That was where glass had become my past, this was my future, and that was what I felt was happening. I always felt really sad about the fact that glass was no longer in my life.
Yeah.
But there was no place for it then. The focus was restore this house and try and raise these children and, do all the other things. And so then I trained in baby massage and baby yoga and toddler yoga, and my whole world just rotated around supporting women and children and babies, and that was happening. And then in 2016, everything sort of fell apart with the relationship that I was in and everything. And so we left there. Me and my children left there. And we came to Limivady. I'm actually from Derry. I'm not from Limivady. I'm from Derry.
Right.
But because I'm related to most of Derry, I decided just to try and bypass Derry for a while, because it was easier to not have to meet everybody and answer lots of questions.
Yeah.
What happened in my life. So I came here, and I've been part of Stendhal Festival here anyway. Have been for quite a few years now. I think I came on board the second year of Stendhal. Working in hospitality, and then for the last 5 years now I've been offering breastfeeding support at Stendhal. So obviously that's a huge thing here in Limivady. And so I've become involved in that, and a lot of people here I got to know anyway. And so that was when I first started thinking about glass. I think it was coincidental. Dave, who I worked with at NCAD, had messaged me and told me he had gone back to making glass and asked me about my old tools and would I be interested in selling them to him. And I had said, yeah, I would sell them to him, no problem, and I was never going to make glass again.
Okay.
And then Mel, who's based in Ontario in Canada, who had created Breast Bowl, which is these little glass vessels for hand express and breast milk. She's I think she's a biochemical engineer.
Wow.
And so she had created these amazing little glass vessels after having her babies. And she was making them. And so she said, well, why don't you make them in Ireland and, sell them there? And I was like, what? What? And I just thought they were fascinating. And I, obviously with my background then on breastfeeding support, I just thought they were so amazing, and the idea behind them was so amazing, because obviously we're trying to reduce waste and glass sterile, and we don't really need to use these industrial style pumps and all these things. And so I loved the concept, and I loved that they were made from blown glass. And then at the same time, Dave had messaged me, and I was sort of going, this is all about odd. These people. So that was around Christmas 2016, I think they messaged me around then, and both of them I said no. And my confidence was totally shattered. And then Dave just said, I know a guy's got a studio near you, and I'm going to come up and hire it. Can you come and hang out? And I went in, and I felt like a total fraud. I just felt like I shouldn't have been there.
Oh, no.
I stopped telling people years before that I even made glass. I just felt like a complete fraud. And then as the day went on, I just realised that my skills were still there, and I started gaining confidence. And then we went back for another few days, and I just was, making these breast bowls, and I just felt so good. And then people wanted to buy them, and I was just going, oh my God, this is amazing. And that was sort of that's how it started. And so, yeah, in 2017, I think I went back into the hot shop. And then Mel had started experimenting with her breast milk and the glass, and she'd told me what she'd been doing, and she'd shown me some of the stuff, and it had gone this sort of weird grey colour, but there was little flakes of white in it. And I was asking her about it, and she was just saying, I just went straight into the milk. And I said, God, that's odd. And so I've been running support groups for years anyway. And I asked a few of the mothers in my group, and I thought they would think it was really odd and wouldn't like it at all. I thought they'd think, that woman's mad. I just said, would any of you be willing to give me some of your milk to experiment with? And they were beating my door down.
Wow.
They were all flocking. I mean, the first day I started experimenting, and I posted pictures on Facebook, and that night, just the amount of people came here with little jars of milk for me, and were like, can you take mine? And so I took them off, and it was sort of trial and error. I had to work a lot with the heat, and work a lot getting the glass right, getting the milk right, and getting the balance right. But there's no processing at all. I just go into the milk with the hot glass, and then I encase it, and I reheat it, and it turns white within the glass.
Wow. And
it was just, whenever I seen the results then afterwards, when it cooled down, because it nails overnight, and then we bring it out the next day, and it looks like a mammogram. It looks like what we see in a mammogram when we have that done. And I just was going, oh wow, this is something else. This is completely incredible. And I started Googling then to see if anyone else had done it. And no one else has done it. No one else in the world, as far as I can find, has done this. And so I kind of had to sit down and pinch myself and go, geez, Helen, this is pretty amazing. I have, what's this about? What are you going to do with this? So it's kind of been developed since that. So yeah, I started making it for the mums in my group. Mostly they were offering me money to make them pieces, and that's where it began. And then someone suggested putting baby teeth in glass, and the results of that were fab. And placenta and umbilical cords and all these things that mean something to these women. And nearly every woman that I've handed the piece to directly, that I haven't had to post the glass to, they nearly all break down. Like they get really emotional when they see it for the first time. And it's really, it's a bit scary, because initially I'm going, oh my God, are they really upset?
Oh no.
No, they're not. They're really, really emotional about it. And I suppose for quite a few of them, I will have known the trauma that they've been through with their birth and with their breastfeeding experiences. So, and I can relate to it because I've been through it too. And so I know for that, and I've made glass for mothers who've lost their babies as well. And you know, if their baby had been very sick and they were expressing milk for them and then saving that milk, and not sure what to do with that milk then after their babies have gone. And so they've sent me milk to make stuff, and that's really tough. I find that really that's really challenging to produce the piece for them, but do it anyway. Of course you do, but it's just, you know, you can smell the milk when you go into it with the heat.
Yeah.
One baby who was stillborn, and I had his milk, and I knew that the smell of that milk would have been the smell that he would have had, and I found that really overwhelming to make that glass on that particular day. It was so hard, but it was really powerful to be able to produce that then and send it to them. It was a family in America. Just so special. And so for me, I think I would love to make it for everybody. If I was really rich, I'd love to make it for every person. Should have something like that, a piece to remember, because these things are solid and they're not going to break easily, and they're going to last long after us. These things are still going to be around. You know, you sometimes see the Antiques Roadshow and they have these really unusual things, you know, these little things that are from ancient times, and it's like, you know, something really bizarre, and I have visions of one of my paperweights being up like Antiques Roadshow in the future going, apparently this is human milk in glass.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, no, what an honour to have been given something like that, especially on, you know, instances where it's obviously such a sensitive issue for people as well. I mean, that's so beautiful to just be trusted with something so special like that as well. I mean, that's incredible. I wanted to ask as well about the actual milk. I mean, it is just incredible. I mean, I don't think it gets enough credit, to be honest. But because no milk is created equal. I mean, do you find any variations occur? I mean, is it possible at all? I mean, with every person's milk that you get, can it have different effects? I know that even if a baby's sick, you know, I mean, will it produce just different effects depending on the different type of milk then?
Yeah, and it's really cool, and because I'm such a geek about human milk anyway, I have quite a good idea of what's going on. So I mean, I've had colostrum, which, you know, is obviously like, it's almost like a yolky yellow color. And I always assumed that it had such high fat content, and I often wondered, is it the fat content that sticks to the glass? And it's not. So it must be more of the calcium and the iron and different things, because the fat then separates. When you go into the glass or go into the milk with the glass, it almost, you know, the way mercury moves. Sort of weird. It goes like that.
Wow.
It's really strange. And then it depends as well. And so I have an image of 3 different bowls of milk, and each one's a different color. And so sometimes with a much higher, I suppose, colostrum would leave a slight tinge of a sort of golden tinge. And I don't know how it will. I can't work out the science behind it, but it does. And then often if there's a high iron content in the milk, you can see a little bit of a trace of metal around some of the white of the bubbles within the glass, which is obviously iron content within the milk. So it's fascinating, because one lady messaged me one time and she said, Helen, I'm concerned. I think my glass is going moldy.
Oh.
And I said, really? What? And she said, yeah, I think I'm seeing bits of mold in my paperweight. And I told her to take a picture and send it to me. And I said, no, that's always been there. I said, so when you used that milk that you sent me, do you remember? And she said, yeah. He was teething really badly at the time when I was expressing that milk. And we were talking about that and talking about how her milk had probably changed at that time and was providing something essential for her baby. And it seemed like it had a lot of trace elements in it, of metal elements. And that was what it was these little traces of metal. And they're tiny, but you know, she's obviously been sitting studying this very carefully and had noticed these and thought, is it and it couldn't. I mean, it's 1200 degrees when I go in there. It's not possible. Mold will never be in the glass. but it's fascinating, isn't it?
That's amazing. And so you were saying about the texture of how the milk kind of appears like a mammogram through the glass. You were saying also that you layer it. So would it be that you would have sort of molten glass on your, excuse my lack of terminology, on your glass blowing stick, and then would you pour out some milk and roll it in, or is it, you know, do you kind of knead it in sort of like a butter and baking or something like that?
No, I mean, I gather, I would gather some, if I'm making a paperweight, it's solid. So I gather a piece of glass on the end of the pipe or the iron.
Okay.
And then, and it's only small, and then I'll go into the milk with that. And then occasionally what I'll do is I'll get my tweezers and I'll sort of pull it in different directions so that it sort of spreads out, and then it swirls then within the next layer. And then I gather over that. And then I gather over it again. Usually, I do when I'm making quite large paperweights.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, it's a fairly simple process. It's mainly about just capturing the milk. So that's pretty much it. I mean, if I'm blowing into it, it sends a different effect again. Then, so you know, if I blow the piece out, it creates a different sort of finish to the solid pieces. And then I think, and so, I mean, what I've done recently now, my most recent work is, so I've started producing work for gallery now, and I'm doing these very large breasts that I just exhibited in London last month.
Brilliant, yeah.
So they got sent to London, and the reception was pretty good. So there's three. It's amazing what happens when you put a nipple on something.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The response is so wow. So I made these three large breasts, and each one is infused with milk. And I want to do more with them now, because the City Hospital in Belfast would really like to exhibit them.
Wow, fantastic!
In the breast ward that they have there, and also they will be going to Breastival in August in the Ulster Museum. That's on the 3rd or 4th of August, I think it is.
Okay.
And then they're going to the Breastfeeding Festival in Milton Keynes as well in September, and then they go to the Prolacta conference in Poland in November. So my breasts are going on tour, but I'm everywhere. I'll be going to some of the places, but not all of them. So at the minute I'm working on a display for them, and ideally then they'll get to go. I mean, it's interesting because galleries are interested in them, but for me what's happening is, because of the lactation ward that I work within, word of mouth is spread through that, and so people from Alaska and all different parts of the United States and Australia are now sending me their milk to make glass.
Oh my goodness, that's insane.
And it's fine. Like, they worry about it being in the post for 2 weeks. It arrives here perfect. It's amazing. Yeah. And I just refreeze it, and even if it's not, it still works. I've worked with sour milk, and it doesn't smell great with the heat, but it still works.
Yeah. And so does the because I'm just fascinated by how it sort of sits within the gathering. Does it evaporate and sort of condense down? Does it turn sort of powdery, and it's with heat that it changes, or anything
it just
like that?
moves like mercury. It just goes really weird, like. It's like some sort of alien thing that happens to it. It becomes this sort of weird, thick, gloopy, strange thing, but it's still fluid. It's still very fluid, and it does eventually start to separate. You know, I mean, breast milk does anyway. When you put it in the fridge and you take it out, usually you'll see the difference in the fat will sit on top anyway. But it separates, and then all the fat sort of tends to stick around the edge of the bowl, but it sticks to the glass, and then initially it's black when I first go on, but I've actually, the last time I was working with it, I've come up with a new method now of getting the milk to stay, and it makes it much denser in the glass. So so I've come up with a new sort of system of how to, it's mainly just working with temperatures actually. And I've come up with a new method now, and it's working much better. So it's just about, I mean, and that's taken over 2 years to develop that, you know. So it's great. It's great to see the results, though. I love it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, brilliant. Are there any precautions you need to take then? I mean, you're taking in, people's breast milk and the placenta and umbilical cords, teeth, and so on. Is there any biological factors that you need to factor in whenever you're handling that, or is it, is the process enough that it could eliminate any kind of contamination, or I don't even know what you would get in terms of contamination, but
hot glass will wipe out any
yeah well, I'm sure that temperature
is just gonna kill anything. I mean, I don't, and that's why I can't understand why the breast milk goes white. Who knows? And I'm no scientist, so I would love somebody to work that out. Why is this going white? Because most organic things just turn black and they stay black. And they're not going any other color than black. Placenta, strangely enough, actually I use raw placenta, and that was an interesting day in the hot shop, I can tell you. And teeth as well. Teeth make the glass go golden, this amazing gold color. So the tooth releases some kind of gas that creates a void within the glass that turns gold.
Wow.
It's amazing. That's just my son's tooth.
Does that mean that if you're saying it creates a gas, does that mean the tooth is almost loose, sort of surrounded in this bubble within the glass, or does it bond fully with?
It bonds to the side, but it starts to create this. Something obviously is coming out of the tooth that's making the internal glass expand, and it creates a bubble within that.
That is wonderful.
And it leaves this golden hue on the inside. It's incredible. It's like mad scientist stuff. It's crazy. Like, I'm just wondering what else. What are you going to give me now to put in glass?
Yeah, oh gosh, I'm sure it's
we tried hair, not a chance. It just smells really bad, and it just disintegrates. But teeth are fun. Placenta's fascinating. It looks like an alien inside the glass.
I imagine so.
Sort of looks kind of grey, but when you hold it up the light, it has this sort of weird mossy green colour. It's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. It's not for everybody, but I think if it's what makes you feel good, then I'm happy to make it.
Yeah. And so is that a small piece of placenta you'd be sent, or are you generally sent like huge amounts of placenta and you kind of have to chop it up?
This is a tiny small piece. But I've often thought if anyone was to come in and raid my freezer, they'd just be going like, what is that woman? Nice. What's that crazy woman doing? It's full of people's milk. It's amazing. Although if my children have conjunctivitis or anything, I've always got a small supply. Anything or sunburn or whatever. It's always breast milk out of the freezer is always the best solution, I think.
Incredible. I heard a thing. It's kind of gone rogue off topic, but I heard a thing a few years ago about how breast milk can be used to heal or work towards healing cancer, and it's sort of properties that are sort of restorative. If you're saying you're using it on sunburn and stuff, it just seems like such a magical substance.
It is. I mean, they've done so many trials with breast milk. I mean, they did a thing where they put it in a petri dish, and they put or they had MRSA or something in the petri dish, and they put breast milk, and there was a moat created between the breast milk and the MRSA.
Wow.
So there is a lot of tests, but I think when it comes to, because I actually had a very close friend who was getting breast milk donated to her when she was terminally ill, and I think she found it helpful, but unfortunately, obviously, it didn't save her. But at the time, I remember, and I suppose it's like anything. We know that a lot of what happens is because of skin to skin. So you're able to send your baby the best. It's through contact. It's the contact, and that's why when we talk about mothers feeding in public, when mothers are expressing milk to take bottles of express milk out because they don't want to feed in public, they're actually not offering the protection to their children when they're out. Because if I'm sneezing beside you and you're feeding your baby breast milk from a bottle, your body's already produced antibodies to protect your baby, but they're not getting that protection then because you're not feeding them directly from the breast.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
So that's, I suppose, in a way, that's kind of how, if you were very sick, if you were someone that was very sick, you would need to have very close contact with the person lactating for their body to be able to produce what's best for you. Do you know what I mean? And that would be, I know in Mongolia, there's a lot of stuff goes on there with where, the lactating mother is the person of medicine within communities, and that's who the people go to for their medicine is the lactating mother. But I don't know the process of what they do. I don't think they just walk in and she gives milk. There could be a lot to do with skin-to-skin contact and various things, so that her body understands what this person needs, and that's how and that's very natural, isn't it? It's fascinating. I love it.
It's incredible. We really don't know our own bodies, do we? Like it's absolutely amazing.
We're so powerful. I mean, what we can do is just mind-blowing, and that was why I wanted to train, because I felt my body had really let me down during the birth of my children and breastfeeding my children. I felt like I had failed so badly, and I found that really distressing, because I was living this very natural lifestyle where I grew my own vegetables. Everything was organic. I was really trying to make my body a temple, and then I felt it had failed. So I had to come back to being mindful of myself and kind to myself, and the way I did that was through training to understand why it happened, and the training that I had definitely answered all the questions that I needed and let me see that it wasn't my fault that these things happened, and that was kind of, I wanted to become the woman that I wished I'd had in the room with me all that time, and that's what I wanted to do then after, and it seems to be working. I think I have about 120 mothers on my WhatsApp group at the minute.
Wow, my word, that's amazing.
They're amazing for each other. So it's been running for 4 years now. And it's like a rotation. So mothers are on their second and third babies now, and those women are giving the new mothers golden information. It's passing it on and passing it on, and it's just it's most of the time it's common sense. When you think about it logically, it makes sense, but that's not how we always see things in society, is it? When it comes to natural bleeding, and it's always, we overcomplicate it all the time, and then we just have to simplify it, and then it seems a bit easier. But it's easier said than done unless you've got someone who's trained telling you to do that.
Definitely, no, I mean, well, you're obviously the person giving the information, and if they're passing it on and it's golden information too, then that's great. I mean, I'm really quite jealous. I'm very envious. I was the only person in my family to breastfeed, and I'm also the youngest as well, and I really felt I isolated. I felt like I didn't really have any support, bar, maybe the breastfeeding support group that I went to. It really just, it lacked in my own social circle. So I kind of feel like the value in that information that you're providing alone is just incredible. It's huge. Well done you. You're amazing.
Yeah. It's just, you know what? It's like I love the information, and I love sharing the information. So, and for me, I always, people sort of go oh, I'm really sorry to bother you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, oh my God, my number's public. It's there for you to use. I spent so long studying. And I have all this information to give you. Please ask me. I will gladly help you, because I know how isolating it is, and it is. I mean, it can be really tough when you feel like you're not getting support and people just don't understand. And Northern Ireland's one of the worst places in the world for breastfeeding.
Definitely.
And we have to, and I think part of what my work represents now is that kind of, breaking down the stigma and the fact that I put a nipple on this glass and there are so these huge breasts, and I know it, initially it sounds kind of tacky, but then when you see them, they're actually really quite elegant and beautiful.
They are
it's
absolutely
about opening
beautiful.
up the conversations around that with everybody, and I thought, if I can do it within the art world and make other makers see it, because there was a lot of sneering at times. I mean, I got thrown out of one of the glass Facebook pages.
Oh, what?
I did actually. I was really shocked. I joined a few, and I was really hesitant, because my safety net is the breastfeeding community and the doula community, and I get on so well there, and I was so nervous about going back into the art world again, because I was nervous about what I did, and I knew that there would be, there would be sort of some funny looks about the idea of putting human milk in glass, and it would be a bit kind of oh my God, what are you doing? And so I joined this, I think it was like an international glassmakers page or something, and I joined it, and there's about 5,000 people, and I put up a post and a really beautiful image of what the milk looks like within the glass, and just a close-up, and I said what it was, and somebody wrote a really disgusting comment. It turns out for one of the admin, and my response to it was, oh yeah, because that's what everybody wants to do, is put another, bodily fluid and the glass is what he had suggested.
Yeah.
And I was really quite disgusted with it. And then he threw me out and blocked me from the page.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought, well, that was nice.
Yeah.
So going to the London Glass Blowing Gallery recently, last month, was my kind of, you know what, doesn't matter, we're here. And I was alongside many other amazing international glassmakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, here we are,
Absolutely.
So, they made it there, and now they're going off to other places. And again, it's opening up that conversation around what my other passion is, which is natural feeding.
Yeah. That's amazing. And how did you you were saying about you became a doula because you wanted the person and support that you maybe didn't have at that time. I personally was interested in becoming a midwife before I went to study art. How do you go into that line of work?
I was trying to seek out somebody who could teach me. Now, unfortunately, because I'm a single parent, I can't do birth work at all. I can do postpartum doula work, but I can't do any birth work because I can't be on call.
Yeah.
So it's a real shame. But, I have 3 good friends right now who are pregnant as well at the minute. So I'm just going like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm going like, please just have me on call. If I can get there, I will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was the natural thing to do once I trained as a breastfeeding counsellor. It was the next step. And then I had become part of this project called the Elephant Collective.
Okay.
And it's to do with women who have lost their lives through maternity services in Ireland.
Wow.
And it's through Dr. Jo Murphy-Lawless, who's I think she's the head of midwifery and sociology at Trinity College. So she has sort of created this thing called the Elephant Collective, which is about sort of bringing justice to the system and changing the laws around maternal death.
Mm-hmm.
And being this commemorative blanket, everybody contributed to it. And being somebody who had lost my second baby at 6 months, I felt very connected to that through the process, because I was told my life was actually at risk at that time as well.
Wow.
So there was a lot of stuff in relation to that. And one of the other people very involved in that is a lady called Bridget Sheeran, and she's based in Cork, and she's a home birth midwife and a homeopath, and she's also teaches doulas. Mm-hmm. So Jo Murphy-Lawless had said to me, if you're interested in becoming a doula, this is the best woman in the country to teach you. And so I basically bullied Bridget into coming right up from Baltimore and Cork. I bullied her into coming all the way up as far as Donegal. No, she came to Kinloch in Leitrim. And we rented a house, and about 7 of us went out for a few days and did intense training to become doulas. And again, it's very simple. I mean, we're not midwives. A doula is definitely not a midwife, and it's not something. Obviously, there's you can go on to do further training, but it's about just really understanding the process of what's happening and just being that absolute rock for the person that you're with in that room.
Yeah.
And not always necessarily the mother who's birthing, but usually her partner is the one. And what I tend to do now a lot is, especially with friends of mine, is try and empower their partners to be the best birth partner they can be, because when you're in the throes of labour, you're not able to, we can't communicate properly, and God knows what's going on with us, and so we need the person in that room with us to be our voice, and that's what it's about. That's what it was always about for me then, was about empowering people to be able to speak up when they needed to at that moment, and be able to say, no, I don't want intervention, or I don't want to go there, or I don't understand. I mean, as we were saying earlier, our bodies are incredible things. The things we can do with our bodies are absolutely amazing, yet we don't know enough about them at all. We don't know enough about what we can do. We don't know half of the names of the things that are going on. So I think it's about just education all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. So
the same with breastfeeding. I think kids should be, preschool should be aware. I mean, by the time you're aware that you can birth a baby and boys can't or whatever, You know, you should know then that you can produce the food for your baby as well, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to teach children that, you know, and that's what I think we need to change now in our society here. Is it needs to be brought into early years, and helping children understand that this is the process and normalizing it through that.
Yeah, well, no, I have quite a large family, but as I mentioned, that because I was the only one that breastfed, I felt a bit self-conscious and embarrassed to do, because I knew some close family relatives' opinions of it. And then there's also a lot of very young children in my family as well, and I always felt like, oh, I need to leave the room. I was totally okay once I'd done the first feed in public with actually Robin. Robin was there. She's my rock. She was the first person that I breastfed in front of that wasn't my husband. But yeah, no, I think I was okay with feeding in public, but whenever it was family, I was like, oh, I'll just go to the other room, because I felt like, oh, I don't want to, I don't know how they have explained it to their young children, and I don't want to just suddenly, cause an issue or a problem, which now looking back, that's really, I should have just had the confidence to just go for it.
I would understand that you wouldn't. It's such an unusual time, especially for first time.
Yeah, and I think your hormones as well, aren't they? They're all over the place.
We feel so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it is that. And I think, even coming to the groups and talking to mothers in the groups, and often what I found as well, the reason why I trained to do baby massage as well was so that I could work with non-breastfeeding mothers.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be able to be around those women as well, because I knew that I could help them too with a lot about positioning, with bottle feeding and different things. And most people still feed their babies lying on their backs with a bottle rather than doing paste feeding when they should be completely upright from birth.
Yeah,
there's lots of things around that I would have worked with mothers that weren't breastfeeding, and then explaining, I suppose, what we should be trying to do, even with bottle feeding, is mimic breastfeeding.
Yes.
So lots of skin to skin, that's as important. So it's not about trying. My thing was never about trying to make anyone feel bad for not breastfeeding. My thing was about bringing education around what, we talk about the pros and cons of different things, but here's the thing that can make a difference to your baby. If they're not getting breast milk, can still have a big impact without me telling you you're a bad person for not doing it. And that was where I wanted to do that through teaching baby massage, and that seemed to really do that a lot, and we created quite a harmonious thing. And then those mothers would have more babies and come back to me then and go, what you said the last time, can you help me now?
Yeah.
And then they would have breastfed, and it was lovely without using this guilt and pushy. I always think it's weird when people say, oh, I went for my first check-in after I found out I was pregnant, and I was asked, are you going to breastfeed? And I always think that's fascinating that someone gets asked that, because, it's like almost like the cart, the horse is already bolted and left. And, at that point, you're pregnant, you're not really thinking about, if you've never thought about breastfeeding before, you're not going to suddenly go, bing, this is it. It has to be there from long before that stage.
Yeah.
And so I think, and then people often would say, oh, I was really bullied into doing it. And yet they were bullied into doing it, but the help that they were getting wasn't right.
Yeah.
So, the people are still in agony and saying, but I'm being told that this is fine, and it's not fine. And so it's so complicated. It really is. The whole thing is so complicated, and it is about just please seek out the right help.
Yeah.
It's finding out and getting the word out that we're there. That the people who can help you are there. And if I can't, I know other people who are more trained than I am that can. And so it's finding the right resources. If I can't help you, I'll take you to a lactation consultant who can.
Yeah.
So, and that's about that's the lack that we have here. Northern Ireland is really lacking in resources, sadly. So yeah, and I love the way we've ended up talking about breastfeeding in Northern Ireland.
That's fine. Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah.
All my friends know that ends up happening.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation to go into.
Yeah.
So to bring it back then, I suppose, to making, you were saying about a lack of a making premises, and only because I've done a very, 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 very short course in glass blowing, it takes so many people to work together to sort of operate the furnace. How do you kind of work it? Do you work by yourself, or can you work with other people? Can you use their facilities? Is there shared facilities?
I rent off somebody local, actually. There is somebody not too far from here who has a studio, and they're quite private about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never advertise their facilities.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, up till now I've been renting from them. And Dave, who is from 1150 Glass in Dublin, Dave would come up, and often we would work together because we always worked together when we were at art college anyway. And we've sort of rekindled our partnership back in the hot shop, and it's been brilliant. So Dave and I work really well together, but obviously he can't always come up. And so I've started working solo again, and it's working really well. I really like working on my own. Actually, it's quite good. So I'm not a bit phased about setting up my own thing and working solo. That's totally grand. I'd love it. It'd be great. And I think I would be interested in teaching as well. I always had an idea back in the late 90s about doing a cross-Atlantic exchange with bringing some of the Seattle makers over here to teach some of the skills here. So I always wanted to be able to provide really good facilities for them, that they could come over and work with, graduates who've just come out of art college, or people maybe at different art colleges, maybe coming out of somewhere like different colleges in England that are studying glass, or Wolverhampton or wherever, and might want to come over here and work with some of these guys that I've been really lucky enough to work with them in my times. So I thought that would have been a nice idea to do as well at some stage, and I think I'd still like to do that. I was in Seattle this time last year, actually. I went back with my kids because I hadn't been back since 2005, so that was a big trip, and I actually got to make glass from Lino Tagliapiera's pot. Wow. He had specially flown in from Murano, so we ended up hiring a hot shop for a few days, or for a day actually, it was only a day, and it was Lino's glass we were using, so we were so smug. It was brilliant. So it almost came back around full circle after 20 years,
Yeah, brilliant.
Brilliant. It was so good. But yeah, ideally I would love to. This time next year, I certainly would like to have my own studio. I'm looking for somewhere at the minute. I would like it to be part of where I'm living, so I want it to be at the back of the house. And so I'm looking for a house with a big shed, basically.
Excellent.
If you know anyone who has one, send them my way.
Will do. And then how do you, so if you're saying that you are happy enough working solo, does that change the process of your making, or do you have to adapt it in any way?
Not really. I mean, my work's not that big at the minute. I'm not. If I need to make anything that's very complex, then I'll beg Dave to come up, or I'll wait until he can come up and we'll do it. But most of the work I'm pretty comfortable making on my own. Yeah, it's fine. And the facilities that I used at the minute are very much geared towards solo working anyway. It's fantastic, really fantastic. I'll be so sad when I'm not using them anymore.
Yeah.
So the recent work that you've made, that you've been exhibiting, or that you recently exhibited in London, how did that come about? I mean, you've been making the commission pieces. What spurred you on then to just make these art pieces that were, essentially for yourself, to tell a story?
I think it kind of naturally came about. I joined this group. I don't know if you guys are on it. The biscuit group, the Bite the Biscuit. Are you a part of that?
Oh no.
Okay, it's a really check it out. It's on Facebook. So there's a lady called Tara Bow, and she is just this absolute. I can't even begin to describe her properly because I'll never do her justice. She's just the most amazing entrepreneur, and she's really she's like a creative counsellor.
Oh.
And she's great crack. She's really open. She's not like most people that I've worked with in the past, like years ago when I would have been talking to different people. Tara's really approachable. So she's created different programs for creative people, and there's lots of different creative people who are part of the Bite the Biscuit thing now. And she's really reshaping how we work within Ireland as a collective of creatives. Okay. So a friend of mine had passed that on to me last year, and I joined the Bite the Biscuit Facebook page, which is open to anybody anyway.
Mhm.
And then this friend of mine then had gone on to do a foundation course with Tara and a few others. And there's Fran Haplin and Karen Hickey and different people who are painters and ceramicists and jewelry makers. All sorts of people are on there, and people who are doing natural skincare products and stuff. And so I had seen how my friend had gone from her job working in home base or somewhere, and suddenly she had left her job at the start of this year, and her business is now booming. And so they had this big bash in Dublin, this big biscuit bash in Dublin in January, and I thought I'll go along and meet some of these people and see what they're like. And I went along, and it was just so inspiring, and I felt really involved again. And I'd said earlier, I felt so anxious going back into the creative world because I felt so out of the loop for so long. And I was kind of, I was definitely a bit worried and intimidated by it. And I was just embraced by these people. And then I became one of the factory members. There's a thing called the Biscuit Factory, and you subscribe to that and you pay monthly to be part of that. And you receive so much creative support. You get insight into all these things that are happening all over the place in different countries and in Ireland, and what's up next, and how do we access this, and how do we do that, and who's involved in this, and how did you do that process, and where did you get that funding, and it's all there.
Right.
And then Tara does a 1-to-1, she does a powwow on a Monday, so she opens up the floor for all of us. We all throw in questions, she brings them back. It's really, really good, and it's growing. And so since I've become part of that, I built my website. I just felt really much more empowered about what I was doing, and I had all these, as far as I'm concerned, these really amazing established artists now who are just all going like, oh my goodness, Helen, you're flying, girl, you're doing great. And when you've got a bunch of people like that at your back, just pushing you on and egging you on, who believe in you, yourself, you're just going like, maybe I'm doing okay here, maybe my work's okay. And so that was when I started sort of going, well, why am I not applying for this stuff? And then I applied for the Contemporary Glass Society, the UK one. I became a member of that, and then they started sending me all these different things that were happening. And this one in London, I think it was the first time they'd done it, and they wanted it to be, the glass had to have a tangible object within it.
Okay.
And it couldn't be an animal or a person or something else. And so I wrote back to them and I said, well, would you consider human milk a tangible object? Because I would. And they were like, what? And then they agreed, and they said, we think you should apply for this exhibition. And so that was how that one came about. And then when I started putting out in the lactation world that I was doing the exhibition, suddenly people from all over the world were messaging me going, well, could you bring we want you to bring your glass to wherever. And so the only thing I could think that I could make with it was breasts.
Yeah.
What else were you going to do?
Exactly.
It's just going to do the most obvious thing, make huge milk-infused breasts. So that was what I did, and they just people appreciated the beauty of what it was without it being tacky. Do you know what I mean by that? And they look really beautiful, and I think that's it's interesting because someone suggested crocheting with wire a giant bra. It's actually quite funny, but I might do that yet.
Yeah. Oh no! Don't cover them. No, they need to be out and proud.
Yeah.
They are beautiful.
Very out and proud.
Yeah.
It's right and lit up.
Yeah, I know. I kind of want one as like a brooch just to wear,
definitely.
out. Because I kind of feel like I'd want to wear it everywhere.
I started. Well, one of the things that Tara is always saying is, keep recreating, keep bringing new things, think outside the box. So suddenly I was sort of going, well, jewelry's another thing, and I'm still infusing. I've all these bits, like pieces that would smash on the floor with milk in them, and I recycle them, and then I started melting them down in the kiln then, and go, well, that's perfect for a pendant. And then I started mixing colours in, and then someone said about birthstone colours, and I was mixing that in. So now I do make pendants.
Yeah.
And brooches actually sound like that's my next thing. Brooches, good. There you
Yeah.
go. Now you've got me into you.
Yeah, brilliant. I want big breast brooches.
Oh,
I think, yeah.
I love it. Right,
That'd be gorgeous.
I'm gonna make them. That's
Yeah.
great.
And I'll take a 40% cut. Yeah.
And so whenever you're recycling these pieces that have broken and that have breast milk in them, how does that melt down? Because I know for myself, if I was ever recycling something, it needs to be, 100% pure silver or 9-carat gold or all 18-carat gold or anything. I've never mixed it. I mean, does it go back to being almost like the original form, or can you see that there's a slight cloudiness to it, or?
No, it's totally fine. It's grand. I just if it's broken up, as long as it's clean, and I just put it in and off it goes. It's fine. No, it comes out grand. I think if I was mixing with different types of glass, because it's glass that's used for hot glass that I'm using then in the kiln, I have to keep using Kugler with it. I can't mix bullseye with that glass because it would crack. So I think as long as I'm not contaminating or doing cross-contamination, it's all fine. But I'm really careful about anything like that, because I normally don't work with anything that's warm glass anyway. It's all hot glass, so all of like my colours and everything are specifically for that. So it worked out fine so far. But yeah, it's lovely because I'm getting orders in for that. Most of my orders that I get are for the paperweights. Which I can totally get. I get why people would, because they do look amazing, and you can really appreciate the milk inside them. And then I made these little milk infused paperweights with some copper leaf nipples recently, and they're only small. Like, you can hold them in your hand, and I thought they would have been so fun for like rewards, like presentation for rewards for for some of the key speakers who are coming to these conferences here, like the Leslie conference or Quidju, or maternal mental health or whatever it may be in relation to birth and breastfeeding. I thought, what great little rewards
Absolutely.
to hand over rather than your usual bunch of flowers. I thought this would have been quite fun, so I'm working on that concept at the minute as well. Which is kind of fun, and there's a bit of interest coming in from that as well. So I suppose it's anyway, it's about trying to sort of keep it fresh. You can still use the same techniques, but just try and come up with some different things. Like the brooches. Love the brooches. They are fabulous. Definitely watch this.
And then what if you could tell us a wee bit about the reality of being sort of a maker, a doula, a breastfeeding counsellor, and a full-time mum as well. Like, how do you manage that balance? And is it an easy enough thing to do, or is it?
Alcohol and probably I don't know, enthusiasm. It's not always easy. It's certainly not always easy, and I think my brain just has to keep working all the time, and so I probably don't sleep as much as I should, and I need good support from good people around me. That makes a huge difference. So having really positive people that I can kind of keep around me. I mean, working with the mothers is amazing because you get so much back from that. Even in very difficult situations now, because I've been doing it for quite long, it's easy to balance that, where you don't get so involved that you give all your time to that. There's a way now of working it, and I always remember being trained when we were doing the training, and they would talk about that, about minding yourself when you're doing support work. And so I suppose now I would, the conversations that come up on the WhatsApp group, when someone's coming on and they're really struggling, and it's not, there's a lot of people giving good support, but no one's sort of finding a solution. And sometimes I can go in and give a solution to that, and it might just be that they need to call somebody or do something, but being able to do that, and then I watch as all these other women rally around her and just mind her, and I think I get my times get fueled by that then, by observing that then and going, because this is part of what I've created, and I might not be directly involved, but just to observe it makes me feel so good. And I think that's, and they don't even realise that, because they're always going like, oh, thank you, and I'm saying, well, you are brilliant too. And it's all about coming back around, and this village of women is just, it's amazing what we can do when we really bond and work together, and none of them know each other.
Yeah.
But yet we just have such amazing connections with each other, and most of them will probably never even meet. But just how they all rally round, they all come in and they all come straight in, and really, they're not even telling her what to do. They're just saying, you're amazing. What you've done's amazing. Give yourself a huge pat in the back. Just stuff like that. And when you're really desperate and at your worst time, when someone's saying something like that, even though they're saying it just to try and make you feel better, it still works.
Yeah, it does, definitely. I think that should be applied, across every your whole life, really, not just especially during that time, but I know even as a maker I could do with that.
I'm telling you, the bite the biscuit, that is what they do for me. I mean, when it came to creative stuff, I was a nervous wreck. I was so worried about it, and I just, like, the night I walked into the gallery in London, I had two friends with me. One had flown over, another one lives there, and one of the mothers from my group came along with her very small baby, her 6-week-old baby that night, who's from here but lives in London. So she arrived that night as well, and while I was waiting to use the bathroom, two of the Quidgy tutors had flown in to surprise me. I just started crying.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet.
That's really beautiful.
It was really special. So I had no idea they were doing that, and it didn't matter. I could have been anywhere in the world that night. I didn't care. I just was surrounded by all these amazing, incredible people, and I loved it. It didn't matter that I was in an art gallery or that my glass was there. It did, but for me, that was more special than anything I could have ever wanted. And I don't remember a time that I felt so just so privileged and happy. I felt really, really happy, and I just couldn't stop smiling all night. I just was so amazed. It was brilliant. Loved it.
Oh, that's great.
That's incredible. And so you were saying for this time next year you hope to have your studio all set up and ready to go. What kind of
fingers crossed.
Amazing. What all kind you were saying, are you looking for a new premises, or how is that?
I'd say so. I can't put it here, not where I'm living right now. So I'm going to have to probably try and find a house somewhere a little more rural, with a shed. That would be the ideal location. I mean, I'm kind of open to the possibilities of moving further away, but I think the kids might protest a bit about that.
Yeah.
I'd imagine so. And then
well, hopefully that's the plan anyway.
Yeah, brilliant. And then do you have anything else on the horizon that you're looking forward to or working towards?
Well, this time of year is always about Stendhal, so Stendhal fever is upon us. So I live a mile away from Stendhal, so I see them passing here all day with all the gear, and so I think in the next couple of weeks I will probably start to spend a lot of time at the festival site getting prepared for that. And if you've not been to Stendhal, it is absolutely brilliant. There's going to be nearly 10,000 people on site this year, and the family area is just something else. It's amazing. So we see babies as young as 3 weeks old coming.
Wow.
And Fiona Ray does it with me, and she is one of the country's leading lactation consultants, actually. So for the price of a Stendhal ticket for a family weekend, it would cost you the same price to see her for an hour's consultation.
Wow, okay.
Could you tell us a wee bit?
Stendhal ticket. So actually people do come along specifically to see Fiona and get tongue tie assessments done and stuff. So she's there all weekend with me, and we just have a blast. So we have some Prosecco and nice cheese and stuff going around when we're working with all these lovely mothers.
Oh, lovely. And so, sorry, I've actually never heard of that festival before. Is it?
It's amazing. It's Stendhal Festival of Art. It starts, I think it's on the 15th. I'm just looking at my calendar. Yeah, this year it starts on the 15th.
Brilliant.
Thursday the 15th of August, and it'll run for 3 nights then. I think Basement Jacks are headlining on Friday night.
Wow.
So there's two sites, and then there's the top field and the bottom field, and there's two huge stages, and then there's other smaller stages around. There's poetry, there's an art gallery, there's a big top, there's a full children's program.
Oh my goodness.
There's the Woodtown. There's 3 stages in Woodtown. It's the most beautiful site. I mean, it's like a proper natural theatre. In the lower field where you're just rising up the hill. It's even with that many people, it still feels really comfortable. They've got the camping really well laid out, and it's just very much geared towards family. So it's not like a crazy mad, everyone's rolling around. It's not like that at all. It's just very family orientated, and it's just a really lovely experience. So I love it. I'm really proud of being part of it. It's brilliant.
That's incredible. Okay, we're going.
Yeah, we're absolutely going to go.
You'll love it. You absolutely love it. I don't know anybody who has come yet and left going, oh, I didn't like it. They all love it.
Yeah.
That sounds incredible.
Well, this episode, we're launching this series in August. So this should hopefully be in the first week of August that we'll be launching this specific episode. So if you're listening, go to it. Yeah, that sounds incredible.
This will be that'll be the week before Breastival is that weekend, actually, the first weekend of August. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
So the breast should be at that. Actually, the breast planning to have the breast on stage with the key speakers.
Oh, brilliant. Great.
So, for anyone at Breastival, we'll get to see the glass there.
See them up
Incredible.
close. Okay, so towards the end of each episode, we like to ask a bit of a few random questions about you that are a bit unrelated to your practice, just to also know you more, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's the last film that you watched?
Oh my god! What's the film? Well, do you know what? I came to Game of Thrones a bit late.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
I've never seen it. Right? I had a volunteer who was in Donegal with me who was in the first series.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And I'd never even seen it. So I felt quite sad about that. So anyway, when it ended a couple of weeks ago, I bought the box set and I've been binge watching it since. So I'm just about to start the 6th series. So don't tell me.
We won't.
Yeah, no.
So that's what I've been watching, and I can't remember anything before it now.
Oh, isn't it brilliant though? It's so like I done exactly the same thing. As soon as it ended, we just started watching it, and I just think, my God, it's like watching a film. It's so well done, and there's so many local makers that were part of making that as well, which is fantastic. So
I know it's
great.
Isn't it? Yeah, I know. I love it. I love it. I think they're sort of making more though. I think there's more happening. I've been told.
Yeah, they're making a prequel. Is it? At the moment, it's currently being recorded or filmed. So I think it's all set before all of that has happened. So it'll be great. Hopefully it'll go well, and it'll be something else I can watch whenever Ben's asleep.
I know. So yeah, that's it. I can't remember a film before that. Honestly, that's all I've been watching for a couple of weeks now. But it's great. Yeah, I didn't. I found it hard to get into at the start. I was kind of going, what is all the fuss about?
Yeah.
But now I'm this far, and I'm going like, oh my god. Oh,
And so next question, what would be the last piece of locally made craft that you've bought, either for yourself or as a gift?
Let me see. I bought a necklace. Actually, I didn't buy it. We exchanged some glass for some jewellery from a lady called Verge down in Cork.
Fantastic.
What's her... On the Verge is her stuff on the Verge.
Brilliant.
And so she made a necklace called the Good Mum, and so I think it's copper and silver and something else, and they're each little tags, and different ones say loved. What do they say? Loved and loved, obeyed, and or something like. I can't remember. It's not obeyed. I can't remember now. I'm not wearing it right now. But anyway, I bought a necklace. I got a necklace and I exchanged a necklace with her. So that was a couple of weeks ago. And I've been buying some paintings as well recently, and I got a Karen Hickey painting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
As well a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, these are all people that are part of the biscuit community.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you'll have to check that out. You'll like that.
Absolutely will
We're
do.
literally on our phones right now checking them.
I've already signed up.
It's amazing. It's such a good thing.
Well, this conversation has been absolutely incredible.
Definitely.
I've learned so much. I'm so sad that I didn't get the opportunity to send you any milk or anything, to make my own piece. But I'm definitely keeping an eye out for those big boob brooches. They'll be definitely great.
And there's always baby teeth, remember?
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Never mind. I'm gonna be. That's okay. But thank you so much for
Absolutely.
this. We've learned so much. And you're an incredible maker. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and then being so awesome.
And open about how you make and, the struggles and realities of it as well has been brilliant. And to be honest, I feel very inspired to sort of look into being a doula as well, because it's something that I've been really interested in previously. So it's so nice to hear such positive sort of thoughts on the matter.
It's really special. And there's some really, I think there's a thing. Is it Wise Birth Belfast, I think?
Okay.
A couple of things. I'll send you links to it, actually.
Thank you.
A couple of things in Belfast that are really taken off now. Some people are really passionate up there. Mommy McMumface, Claire Hackett, is doing some stuff as well. So there's some really good movers and shakers out there who are just inspiring women at the minute and around birth and sort of education and stuff, and so things are happening here. It's lovely to be involved and see it.
That's brilliant. And so I suppose maybe the last question I'd like to ask you is, do you have any recommendations or words of wisdom for any other either new graduates from NCAD or from UU, or pretty much anyone who's interested in either glass or pretty much anything really?
It was like what I was saying earlier. I mean, I suppose I was naive years ago where I just assumed that you go to the core, you go to the source.
Yeah.
So, if you're graduating and you've got, and you're free to sort of open up your mind to the prospects of going to the place that you think you're going to end up anyway. So if you think that New York is the place to be, just no matter what it takes to get there, get to New York.
Fantastic.
If it needs to be Berlin, if it needs to be Milan, wherever it needs to be, wherever you feel is the most inspiring place to be. Don't faff around. Don't think that you need to do something else and something else and something else to get there. Just go straight there. Life's just too short. Go straight there.
Absolutely. And so how can people get in touch with you or find your work?
Well, the website's helenhancockglass.com.
Brilliant.
So pretty simple, and the Facebook page is Helen Hancock Glass Artist.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much for
thank you
once again. And it's been amazing to talk to you.
No bother, guys. It's lovely to chat to you as well, and I hope you come down to stand up.
We will
definitely, yeah.
Definitely, I hope you do after this. It'll be so lovely to meet you, and bring some Prosecco.
Oh, we will say. Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again, Helen, for chatting with us. Gemma and I had actually never met Helen before, and we were so blown away by her generosity, not only with her time, but also with the information that she shared, and the amount of detail she went into was just brilliant, and I personally was fangirling the whole time during the interview. I have also been listening to this episode on repeat because I find it's just so empowering and inspiring, so I'm sitting in the studio just working away to it. So I hope you all have got as much from that episode as we had, and I hope you'll join us next week when we'll be talking to the incredible Martin Cameron and Laura Breen, who are two goldsmiths that work together in their business Cameron & Breen, based in Randallstown. And Gemma and I were lucky enough to go to their studio and check out all of their tools and have a lovely chat with them. So yeah, hope to see you next Thursday. Bye.